Hey all, here OS Reviews. You're watching our video unboxing of the Chuwi Hi9 Plus. This is a 10.8-inch Android tablet running on Android 8.0 Oreo, and it has a 2K display and sells for $220 for the starting base model that comes with 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of built-in storage. You can pay $250 for a deluxe package that includes a folio keyboard case, in addition to an active stylus that supports pressure sensitivity for drawing and notes. It's also known as the HiPen H3. Or you can purchase the stylus separately for $20 if you don't need the keyboard, and save yourself $10 if you want to go that route. So other specifications include the MediaTek X27 processor, which is Deca-core, and it's clocked at 2.3 GHz. This is also a unlocked LTE tablet that supports a SIM card, and you can use it for 4G internet when you're not connected to Wi-Fi, and you can even make phone calls on it, which is actually pretty cool. It's like any other box from Chuwi, they just package it in a cardboard presentation, so not the most deluxe experience, but I like the fact that they save on the cost for the packaging and then give you more value for the product itself, which I think is ultimately better for the consumer. A simple USB-based power supply, in addition to a USB Type-C cable. And then the internal compartment here is what holds the tablet itself, which is actually sandwiched in between a thick layer of foam to protect it during transit. You can simply use a bit of force and pull it out of its cardboard container here. The initial impressions are that it's a pretty large tablet. Again, the traditional iPad had a 9.7-inch display, and this one has a pretty wide aspect ratio, so it does feel pretty considerable in terms of its form factor. Definitely not something as small as a 7 or 8-inch design. We have some of the specs printed on the top here. Again, the Deca-core chipset, magnetic docking keyboard, full lamination display. On the edge here, we have the Pogo contact points for the optional keyboard. It is, again, extremely slim. Again, it's constructed out of a full aluminum on the back, so it does feel quite premium. We have the camera on the back, which is using a Samsung sensor, and we have the dual speaker setup, which is on the back, but at least it is a dual pair. We also have the Chuwi branding on the very bottom here. Again, this entire thing is made out of aluminum. There is just a plastic strip on the very top here that's used for the antennas. So there's just the power key, the aforementioned volume rocker. On the very top of the tablet is where we have the SIM card slot. You do need to use your own SIM ejector tool to remove that. We have a standard 3.5mm headphone jack, always nice to see, even though there is built-in Bluetooth if you want to use wireless headphones, and there's the aforementioned Type-C port for charging. Now, before we go any further, let's take a quick look at the handwriting stylus. Although it supports the pressure sensitivity, unlike the stylus from, say, a Samsung tablet or from the Surface, it does require a battery to be replaced every year or so. It's a Quad A battery. Overall, the stylus feels really premium. It's made out of a single aluminum block, and there's also a clip that you can use to prevent it from rolling around on a desk or just putting onto your shirt. Now, the packaging didn't include some replacement nibs for the plastic tip, so if that wears down, you probably have to pick it up separately. Immediately though, we're able to start interacting with the display using the stylus. So something else I want to quickly point out here is even though the touchscreen is pretty sensitive, both with your finger as well as with the included stylus here, it does not have a cursor point that you can see when you're hovering above the display. So with a Wacom stylus, for example, you can see how there's a slight point that comes over as you're hovering above the display, so you're able to see visually where the stylus is. Other initial impressions here, the wallpaper is actually exactly the same as other Chuwi tablets we've seen, very colorful. We've got all of our standard Google apps installed by default, including YouTube, Gmail, Google Photos, and we can swipe up this gesture here to take a look at all our applications. It is very clean, very near to stock, which is always nice to see. We have just some basic utilities like the calculator, a file manager, a camera, a clock, and that's pretty much it. The only non-standard app is called Wireless Update, which as the name implies, basically checks if there's any software updates available for the tablet. Slight moments of hesitation here and there, so it's not quite as lightning fast as on, say, a Snapdragon 800 series chipset on a flagship tablet or smartphone, but that's kind of to be expected. You're getting a tablet that's basically half the price of, say, a premium, iPad, iPad Pro, or a device that has, again, a more top-of-the-line chipset, but all in all, for general purposes, it still works quite well. It definitely gets a little bit faster after you start using it for a few more minutes. And if we jump into the settings here, we do have very stock install. Coming down here, we can tap on System and confirm that indeed it's on Android 8.0 currently. Chuwi doesn't do the best job historically of giving you new OS updates, but they do provide, again, software patches and security updates here and there, which is, I think, for the most part, will be sufficient, considering this is a relatively inexpensive 10.8-inch tablet. There is haptic vibration as well whenever you tap these controls, so the entire tablet vibrates, and it's already getting a little bit snappier here as we're using this action a few times. Here's a quick size comparison with the aforementioned Chewy HiPad, which sells for a few dollars less at the moment, but also is a 10-inch tablet using the Helio X27 processor from Chewy. The only difference is really the styling, is that this one is more of a gamer style. The tablet's display is also a little bit smaller at 10.1 inches. The Hi Plus also has the most RAM, I believe, out of all the base configuration of Chewy's Android tablets currently, compared to, for example, the Hi Pro that has 3 gigs of built-in RAM. Again, the Hi Plus has 4 gigs. I've installed a few drawing and note-taking apps, and Artflow is one that takes advantage of the pressure sensitivity pretty well. So if we do a quick demo here, I can press very lightly. It's a very thin line. Pressing much harder now, I can see it becomes much harder versus thin again. So I can press hard and then also get thinner as well. So it's able to easily delineate between how hard you're pressing versus how lightly you're pressing. If you want to, again, use it for more realistic drawing and doodling purposes, it's actually doing a very good job, as you can see here. And the question here, yes, palm rejection does work. I can rest my palm on the tablet and I can still be drawing away, and it doesn't really interrupt from the stylus itself from still drawing what I need to on this point. So overall, it works quite well. I can use multi-touch on this particular app to pinch in and pinch out to get some finer details for the purposes of, say, coloring and shading. If we take a quick look at the camera here before we, I think, leave this video, it's a pretty typical camera as far as the ones found on tablets are concerned, which is to say it's not, outstanding, but it's functional for the purposes of document scanning, and it does have HDR as well, so you can use it to scan in some papers and it should suffice, but I wouldn't use it as your primary camera. So if you're interested in learning about how the tablet performs in terms of its day-to-day usage, web browsing, as well as watching back videos, be sure to stay tuned for our full in-depth review, which is coming out soon. For now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been our unboxing and first impressions of the Chewy Hi9 Plus.